Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Motamwanidi sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Zula 100, the only teacher. So today the teaching I will share is going to be, was Christ really Jewish? The origin of Jews. Because there are so many people out there who claim that the so-called Christ, their so-called Savior, that he was a Jew, that he was Jewish. We shall see if that's according to the scriptures. We shall dive in depth to see if he was really a Jewish person, or if he was Middle Eastern, or if he was white, and so on. For that, we shall start in the current classical Bible in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. It says this in the New International Version. I know your affliction and your poverty, yet you are rich. So who is speaking here? Here is an angel, a watcher, that was speaking to John in Revelation. And we see that in Revelation 22, verse 16, which says, I, Christ, have sent my angel to give you this testimony to the churches. So, and that angel, that watcher, had said to John to send a letter. And in the letter, he told him to say this. I know you about your suffering. In the New Living Translation, I know about your suffering and your poverty, but you are rich. So here we are referring to a group of people, a community that are poor materially, meaning physically, regarding the wealth in the visible. But you are rich, meaning spiritually, they are rich. So who then, before we go any further, in the world right now, many people consider to be poor, and who right now, currently in our era, many people consider to be rich? Question mark. I know the blasphemy of those opposing you, period. In the New International Version, it says, I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, comma. So here is specified, before I go any further, that I know about the slander of those who say they are Jews. So those are the people who are usurping, who are claiming, who are passing themselves, who are claiming to be Jews, but the scriptures tells us, the Revelations tells us that they are not really Jews. They are falsifying, they claiming to be, they are usurping the position, the title of Jews, but are not, comma, because their synagogue belongs to Satan. He says here the synagogue, so the synagogue is a temple, it represents the body. So basically they are members, they are part of the synagogue of Satan. In the New International Version, but are a synagogue of Satan. English Standard Version, but are a synagogue of Satan as well. And English Standard Version, in the beginning, he said, I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich. And the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not. Now, we shall see then in the scriptures, in the current classical Bible, who are the true Jews and who are those who claim to be Jews, who claim to be Jewish. When we go in Matthew chapter 3, verse 7, in Berean Study Bible, it says this. But when John saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his place of baptism, comma. So John was baptizing, he was preaching, he was baptizing, meaning cleaning them through the baptism, the uninitiated, some people, to bring them to repentance, to prepare them for repentance. So they were confessing their sin. And So John the Baptist saw the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He saw another group of people coming, so he stopped. He said to them, come up. So he speaks to them, to that group of people. You brood of vipers, come up. So he referred to them as a brood of vipers. So what is a brood of vipers? Is the race of vipers is the descendants, meaning the offspring of vipers. Who warned you to flee from the coming wrath? Question mark. So John asked them, who did warn you to flee from the coming wrath? Now, we have to understand here that these group of people, they are the so-called Jews. Because when we go in Revelation 22, in Revelation chapter 3, verse 9, it says this: I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan come up, who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars. I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. So here it says that there's a group of people who claim to be Jews, but they are lying. And we're going to make them, these people, those liars, come and fall down at your feet, at the feet then of those people who are the true Jews, and acknowledge that I have loved you. So there's the original, the true people, the chosen one, the chosen race that the Father's love. That is accepted by the spiritual. So the original race. New Living Translation, look, I will force those who belong to Satan's synagogue, those liars who said they are Jews but are not, to come and bow down at your feet, period. They will acknowledge that you are the one. You are the ones I love. Now, when we go back in Matthew chapter 3, verse 7, in the King James Bible, it says, but when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee the wrath to come? And in American Standard Version, it says, but when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his baptism, so that's John, he said to them, ye offspring of vipers, So who are the offspring of vipers? Because when John saw them, he recognized. So he saw also their spiritual, in the spiritual sense, their spiritual identity. He saw that they are the offspring of vipers. They are the race of vipers. They are brood of vipers. What is vipers? Those are serpents. So he saw that this is the reptilian race. Good News Translation, you snakes, who told you that you could escape from the punishment God is about to send? Question mark. Now, we're going to see who those are. For that, when we go in John chapter 1 verse 11, it says, he came to his own, comma. So that's the word. He came to his own, comma. And his own did not receive him, period. So here in the Current Classic of the Bible, it says that the word came to his own. So the word of God came to his own. So, and we know that the word had fusion with the Christ. So the Christ, it says here, came to his own, comma. New Living Translation, he came to his own people, comma. So the Christ came to his own, came to his broad toward, in his own race, in his own community, in his own people. But he says here, and even they rejected him. But it's not everyone that rejected him. It's some people that rejected. Because we know that even among the apostles and the disciples, there are many that accepted. And they were the so-called Jews. They were the Israelites. That's why it says in verse 12, but to all those who received him, to those who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Now, when we go in John 8, verse 31, in the New International Version, it says, to the Jews who had believed him, comma, Christ said. So here it says, to the Jews who had believed him. So because he was preaching, Christ said, if you hold to my teaching, comma. So they believed, because there's many steps. First you believe, then you have to stay in the faith. So you have to persevere. You have to keep the faith. That's why it says, to the Jews who had believed him, Christ said, if you hold my teaching, comma, you are really my disciples. Period. New Living Translation, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teaching. Verse 12. Verse 30, before verse 32 in John 8. So the next verse. It says, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Verse 33. This answered him. So that group of people, the so-called Jews, because it says the Jews that believed in him, they answered to him, comma, we are Abraham's descendant and have never been slaves of anyone, period. How can you say we shall be set free? Question mark. So this group of people, this group of people claim to be the descendant of Abraham. But they say that they were never slaved. They were never enslaved. Because when we go in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13, it says, then the Lord said to him, to whom? To Abraham, know for certain, that for 400 years your descendant will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there, period. So the scriptures, the text, the writings in the current classical Bible tells us here in Genesis 15:13 that the descendant of Abraham will be enslaved. It tells him, be certain of that for 400 years, your descendant will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. So those are the descendants of Abraham. Those are the true Jews. But the so-called Jews that came to see the Christ, that group of people who wanted to pass for Jews, also the same group that John the Baptist called the offspring of the vipers, they say that they were never enslaved by anyone. So that means they are not the descendant of Abraham. So those so-called Jews then, because we know in the current classical Bible, they will claim that the so-called Jews were enslaved in Egypt in the current classical Bible. But these Jews said that they have never been enslaved by anyone. So that so-called Exodus, or that the slavery in Exodus, never took place for them. They were never part of, their ancestors were never part of that history. Now, that's why they say in verse 33, they answer him, we are Abraham's descendant and have never been slave of anyone. So never. That means even in the past, they have never been enslaved by anyone. That's what they claim. Christ replied in verse 34, very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Verse 35, now a slave has no permanent place in the family, but a son belongs to it forever. Verse 36, so if the Son set you free, you will be free indeed. Now, in verse 37, here in the current classical Bible, he will be written, I know that you are Abraham's descendant. Period. So some people are going to take this verse and try to say, you see, they are Abraham's descendant. So that means those are the so-called Jews. So that means they are the so-called chosen people. No. Relax. If you do not understand the scriptures, let those who have been mandated, meaning in our time, Zula 100, explain, reveal to us. Because we know in Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8, it says this. Jeremiah 8:8 in the current classical Bible. How can you say we are wise and the law of the Lord is with us? Question mark. But behold, the lying pen of the scribes has made it into a lie. Period. So the lying pen of the scribes, those are the people who have written the text, who have transcribed, translated many texts, they have made it into a lie. So they falsified the scriptures, they falsified the text to try to falsify the history of the true chosen people, the people of God, the true Jews. That's why when we go in verse 30, 7, when we continue, yet you are looking for a way to kill me, question mark, comma. So here, these people were the one who were trying to kill the Christ. Because you have no room for my word, period. Verse 38. We're going to reveal why. We're going to reveal the verse, why it says in verse 37, I know that you are Abraham's descendant. Verse 38, it says this. I am telling you what I have seen in the Father's presence, comma. And you are doing what you have heard from your father, period. So, it says here, the Christ tells them that you are doing. So, this group of people, they are doing what you have heard from your father. And who is their father? Verse 39. Abraham is our father, they replied. So, they claim they come back again because the Christ told them that if you will, he told them, you will know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And they say, we've never been enslaved. So they claim to be free. And they said that they have never been enslaved by anyone, even in the past. So even their fathers, their ancestors, they claim were never enslaved. Yet we know that the descendant of Abraham would be subject to slavery for 400 years. And then in verse 41, he tells them, you are doing the works of your father. Before verse 41, in verse 38, he also says, and you do what you have heard from your father. They say in verse 39, Abraham is our father. Period. If you were the children of Abraham, comma, said the Christ. So the Christ said, if you were the children of Abraham, comma. That's why when we read the scriptures, it's not just read fast and not understanding exactly what is written. He says, if you were the children of Abraham, said the Christ, you will do the works of Abraham, period. Verse 40, but now you are trying to kill me, comma, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God, period. Abraham never did such a thing, period. You see? So these group of people, that community that claim to be the descendant of Abraham, the Christ says, if you were the descendant of Abraham, you will do the works of Abraham. So they were not, he was saying to them that, in fact, you're not the descendant of Abraham. Verse 41, you are doing the works of your father. So basically he's telling them, your father is not Abraham. You are not the descendant. We are not illegitimate children, comma, they declared. So why did they say we are not illegitimate children? Because Christ was in fact telling them, they understood what Christ was saying to them. He was saying that you're not the descendant of Abraham. You're doing the works of your father. Because first they tried to claim to be the descendant of Abraham. And that didn't work. So now they say, oh, okay, but we are not the illegitimate children, comma, they declared. Our only father is God himself. Period. You see, now they change. They're changing their position. Because first they claimed to be the descendant of Abraham, and that didn't pass because Christ revealed to them that no, you're not, because by your own word you will be justified. By their own word, they admitted that they were never enslaved by anyone. And the scriptures tells us that the descendant of Abraham will be enslaved. And then they also said that, and Christ also said to them that they were trying to do the works of their father. And the Christ said that if you were the descendant of Abraham, you will do the work, his work. Now they say we are not illegitimate children, because that's what the Christ was telling them they are. Our only father is God himself. And who are the illegitimate children? What is their origin? Those are the fake Jews, the false Jews, those who claim to be Jews. Those are the illegitimate children. Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 3, it says this in the New Living Translation: if a person is illegitimate by birth, comma, neither he nor his descendant for 10 generations may be admitted to the assembly of the Lord. King James Bible, it says, you can read, start with a B. Shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Contemporary English version, no one born outside of a legal marriage. And what is someone? New American Bible, no one born of an illicit union may come into the assembly of the Lord. So those are the illegitimate children. And Christ was accusing them of being illegitimate, of being those people that Deuteronomy 23:3 referred to. And they say, no, we are not those. So they try to deny their origin. They try to deny who they are. They try to conceal their true identity. The identity that John the Baptist revealed when he says to them, brood of vipers. That's what we have to understand. We have to know the Bible verse. We have to know different translations. We have to know, because the lying pen of the scribe was at work. But by the manifestation of the grace of Loba, they couldn't remove all the traces. And when we go in Bible des Peuples, that's a French Bible, it says the half-breed. So that's the mixed. The half-breed, that's the translation of the French Bible, Bible des Peuples. The mixed, because in other version, it will say the illegitimate children, or someone born of a forbidden union, or someone born of an illicit union. But in other version, it will expose directly, point out who are those. Which race are they? It says here the half-breed. So the mixed. It says here the mixed. And who are the mixed? The mixed will not enter the community of God either. even in the 10th generation. So the mixed people. So if you claim that no, he was Middle Eastern, that is so, for those of you who are in total confusion, who lack any basic knowledge of history, who claim that no, the Christ was mixed, he was Middle Eastern, he was pale, he was white, he was a mix of two, he was brown, and so on, brownish, reddish, you are in complete delusion, because it says here in Deuteronomy 23 verse 3 that the half-breed, so a mixed person, will not enter the community of God. So a mixed person is illegitimate. So are you saying then that the Christ is illegitimate? Is among the race of the illegitimate? Be careful. Will not enter the community of God either. Even in the 10th generation, he is excluded from God's community. And we know that the Christ came into his own people. So he came to the original race, to the chosen people, to the true people. He didn't come among the illegitimate. That would make no sense. That would be a complete confusion, a complete lie, a complete heresy, a complete contradiction of the scriptures. Malachi chapter 2 verse 11, New International Version. Judah has been unfaithful, period. A detestable things has been committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. Judah has desecrated the sanctuary the Lord loved by marrying women who worship a foreign god. He says here by marrying women who worship a foreign god. Now, in other version, he will be more clear, reveal us the identity of those women. Who are the women who worship a foreign god? For that, we go in other versions. Malachi 2, verse 11. Let's go in the King James Version. It says, and had married the daughter of a strange god. So in other version, we'll say Judah has been infidel. They desecrated what is the sanctuary of the Lord. In other version, they said they married the woman who worshiped false god. But in other version, in English Standard Version, it says, and has married the daughter of a foreign god. The daughter of a foreign god. So the daughter of a god. Those are the illegitimate descendant. Christian Standard Bible. Judah has acted treacherously, and a detestable act has been done in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah, so the Israelites, not all, but part of them, Judah has profaned the Lord's sanctuary, which is love, and has married the daughter of a foreign god. Now, Ezra chapter 9 verse 2. Indeed, the Israelites have taken some of their daughters as wife for themselves and their sons. so that the holy seed has been mixed with the people of the land. So the holy seed was mixed. So the holy race was mixed. And that's the forbidden union with the holy seed and the other nations, the foreigners. New Living Translation, for the men of Israel have married women of this land and have taken them as wife for their son. So the holy race has become polluted by these mixed marriages. And that's the forbidden union. The Israelites were not allowed to marry outside of their race. Worse yet, the leaders and officials have led the way in this outrage. Hosea chapter 5 verse 7, English Standard Version. They have dealt faithlessly with the Lord, for they have borne alien children. Period. Now, in the New American Standard Bible, they have dealt treacherously with the Lord, for they have given birth to illegitimate children. And we see that in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, which says, now when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took as wives whomever they chose. So the Son of God, who are those sons of God? Good News translations, some of the heavenly beings. Heavenly beings. So we're talking here, those are the false God. Those heavenly beings, those sons of God. Because when you are a son of God, then you are also a God yourself. So those gods, some of the heavenly beings saw that these young women were beautiful, so the young women, the daughters of men. So they took the one they like. So that's in Genesis 6 verse 1. So those are the fallen angels. And they mixed with the daughter of man. Verse 4. In those days, and even later, there were giants on the earth. So those are the giants, those are the Nephilims, who were descendants of human women and the heavenly beings. They were the great heroes and famous men of long ago. So that's where that illegitimate race came. New Living Translation in John chapter 8 verse 41. No, you are imitating your real father, period. So the Christ was revealing to them their true origin, who is their true father. Because they were trying to deny, they were trying to conceal, they were trying to hide who they truly were. And he says, you are doing the worst. You are imitating your real father. They replied, we aren't illegitimate children. God himself is our true father. Now, verse 42. Christ said to them, if God were your father, comma. So when he says that, that means God is not their father. Because first they claim to be the descendant of Abraham. He shut that down. Then they said, we only have one father, God. Then he says, if God was your father, you would love me, comma, for I have come here from God. I have not come on my own, but he sent me. Verse 43. Why do you not understand what am I saying? What am I saying? Question mark. It is because you are unable to accept my message. Verse 44. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out his desires. You see? So he was telling them that they are the descendant, that their father is the devil, is Satan. So they are the race, and we know that Satan is a fallen entity. He was one of the heavenly beings. And some of those heavenly beings that had fallen with Satan united with some uninitiated woman. And that's where the illegitimate sons came. The illegitimate people. The illegitimate race. The illegitimate seed. Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, New International Version. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, comma, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. So here in Genesis 3:15, it was regarding the serpent. And we know that behind that serpent, he was Satan. Who inspired that, it was Satan that inspired that, also inspired the serpent to go and seduce Eve. And then after that, after the fall, he says, and I will put enmity between you and the woman. So between the serpent. And behind the serpent is Satan. So between Satan and the woman. And between your seed. So that's the seed of the serpent. That's the seed of Satan. And and her seed. So between the seed of Satan and the seed of the woman. He will crush your head. That's the descendant of the woman. And you will strike his heel. And what is to strike the heel? In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 15, New Living Translation, it says, for shoes, comma, put on the peace that comes from the good news so that you will be fully prepared. So when they strike your heel, that means your foot is in bad condition. So you're not able to put on the shoes. And the shoes represent the good news, the gospel, the true doctrine. So by striking your heel, the heel of the descendant of the woman, they are trying, behind what you have to understand, is they are changing the history. They try to change the history of the woman. They try to change the good news. They try to change the doctrine. They try to falsify history. The gospel. So you're unable to wear the shoes, the good news. That's the falsification of history. That's why they're claiming. And then they try to wear, to claim to be the one who wear the shoes then. You see? and they're passing themselves for the original race. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 9, New International Version. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain, period. So to go up on a high mountain. So you need to walk steps, so you need the shoes. You who bring good news to Jerusalem. New Living Translation, messenger of good news, shout out from the mountaintops. So, as you can see, those who claim to be Jews are the mixed or the other race. The original race, the true Jews, they are black people. That's the original race. That's the first race on earth. They're not the foreigners, to whom alone the earth was given. You see that in Job. Now, in Matthew 3:7, we go back, New Living Translation. But when he saw the Pharisees and the Sadducees coming to watch him baptize, come out. So when John the Baptist saw them, saw the illegitimate, saw the other race, the mixed blood, those descendants, he says to them, you offspring of vipers. You see, you offspring of vipers. The viper is a serpent. So they were the descendant of that seed. English Standard Version in Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. You see? So there's different type of offspring. So for those of you out there who claim no, race has no bearing, race has no importance, race doesn't matter, that's in your own confusion, in your own delusion. That's not what the scriptures tells us. So for those of you who say no, in the Christ there's no Jews, there's no or Gentiles, there's no. In the same Bible, they also say that salvation comes from the Jews. Matthew 3 verse 9, New American Standard Bible. And do not assume that you can say to yourself, we have Abraham as our father. So John the Baptist tells them, do not assume that you can say to yourselves, we have Abraham as your father. Semicolon. You see? Because that's a lie. They cannot say that. For I tell you that God is able from these stones to raise up children for Abraham. So here in the Current Classic Bible it says that it rather raise up children from Abraham from the stones than from you. Because you are the offspring of the fallen angels. You are illegitimate. Revelation chapter 12 verse 9. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. Isaiah chapter 59 verse 5. New King James Versions. They hatch vipers, eggs, and weaves the spider's web. He who eats of their eggs die. And from that which is cursed, a viper breaks out. Aramaic Bible in plain English. The eggs of the dragon they have hatched, and the webs of the spiders they have spun. He who eats of their eggs shall die. And what hatches out can slither. Brampton Septuagint translation. They have hatched hasp eggs and weaves a spider web. And he that is going to eat of their eggs, having crushed and added eggs, has found also in it a basilic. So, you see? And what is the basilic? Here in this text it says, there are three descriptions of mythical basilics: a huge lizard, a giant snake, or a composite of a reptile and rooster. Often with the head, plumage, and front legs of the rooster, and a reptilian tail, and sometimes scaly wings. So, the fake Jews, they are the one, they are the other races. The fake Jews, those in Revelation that claim to be Jews, they are the descendant also of those who have tried to falsify history, who have tried to claim to be, but are liars, you're told. They are the liars. And we see in Deuteronomy 23 verse 3 their identity. So they are the one who killed the Christ. So the Christ wasn't a fake Jew. Now, we shall see in Bibèl Kalatambale, the book of the truth. Regarding the true Christ, so the hidden gospel of Christ, Kundumane Mula. So that's the true Christ. And you can see he's black. He says in chapter 17, verse 5, the little child, Jokisabe Christ, was a very handsome black boy with curly hair. In verse 1 it says, 8 days after the miraculous birth of the child in the mysterious village of Mboabreti, Bethlehem, which is in the territory of Soma, so that's in ancestral Africa. I've already made a video to show where that was with the maps. Eume brought him in order to have him circumcised according to the rite of the ancestors, in a large and nearby village famous for the ritual end of the ancestral circumcision. Now in Bibèl, Origin chapter 3 verse 15, because in the current class of the Bible is not precise, it doesn't specify truly. But in the only authentic Bible without any errors and contradiction, in Origin chapter 3 verse 15, since you make one, Satan the Mundimabobe, evil spirit, and you, so that's the serpent that has seduced Eve in the current class of the Bible, her name, but her true name is Muto. Since you make one, Satan the Mundimabobe, evil spirit, and you in this fault, I will put a deep antipathy between you and Muto, the volitive faculty, between the race of demons, white and mixed blood, who will be born of your fellows. You see, before I go any further, because here the Mandaté, the entity, was speaking to the serpent. And behind the serpent, Satan was also there. So he was speaking to them both. And he says, I will put a deep antipathy between you and Mutu. So between Satan and Mutu. Between the race of demons, white and mixed blood, who will be born of your fellows. And who is the fellows? The fellows are the other fallen angels. So some fallen angels, the so-called heavenly beings in Genesis 6. So the other fallen entities who will be born of your fellows, and between the black race, descended from Mutu just like her, comma. You see, because Mutu, the first woman, she was black, and so was the first man. Hers will compress in you the principle of evil and will thus crush your agitation during the coming of the two manifested before non-existence. And yours will compress in her the consequences of her fault, comma, in order to thwart her steps for a time known to us. Now, so you're told that there will be a fight between the descendant of the fellow of Satan. So those are the fallen angels who had sexual relations with some uninitiated black woman from the lineage of Cain. Pongise is true name. And their offspring is the legitimate. And those are the race, the Nephilim. Because those fallen angels also had sexual relations with some animals. And those descendants were the demons. But before they had a physical body, but those bodies were exterminated in the great cataclysm. So during the period of Noah, during the period of the flood. So then later on, they were only left as evil spirits, so the demons. So the demons are also the offspring of the fallen angels. And so are the whites and the mixed bloods. That's why in Kundumane is still in Bibèl Katambale, so the hidden gospel of the Christ, of the true Christ. Chapter 29, verse 24, he says, "You are not issued of the manifestation of the will of Lopa," replied Jokisabi, so the true Christ. "Because you, comma, you," who was he addressing? He was addressing the half-breeds, the mixed bloods. "Because you," so the mixed, including the whites, are the fruit of the shameful and forbidden relationship between the fallen entities with the uninitiated black woman. So that's their origin of the fake Jews. The true Christ was black. All the prophets were black. Spirituality is a matter of race. So when people are going to try to come and debate, try to say that no, Christ was white, no, Christ was mixed, he was a little bit palish. No, he was black. And the others, they try to falsify the history, they try to remove the trace, they try to erase, and they try to change his name, his place of birth, his origin, And they try to usurp the chosen people place. That's why many black people don't know who they are. Many black people don't know their origin and some of them think they are strangers. Some of them think that no, the chosen people is the so-called Jews or the so-called white. But you are first on earth. How can the other race be the chosen one when you were the first on earth? When you are the original race? And they try to bring confusion. They try to bring also division. That's why you see many black people, even in the island, they will say, no, we are not African. So they try to say, no, they sold us. You see? Because they falsified history, they brought the false doctrine, they changed many things to divide and conquer, to divide and oppress. You see? Now, that was the message regarding the true Christ. He wasn't a fake Jew. He was black. Born in Africa. We've shown the map. You can't disagree. It's not going to change anything. You can write down in the comments, whatever. It changes nothing. The truth is here. The message is here. The only teacher is here. This truth will never pass. It will stay. The spiritual liberation is in progress. No one can stop it. No one can stop it. If you think that you can stop this march, that you can stop this path, you can stop this message, you're mistaken. You've already lost. It's like trying to run against the wind. Everything, it has already been prophesied. You see? It's already been prophesied. The end. So we already know how it's going to end. So all the black people out there, get out of foreign religions. They lied to you. They falsified history. They falsified the history of our ancestors. They tried to divide us. They tried to make us hate each other. They tried to make us accept false gods, foreign gods, new gods that our ancestors didn't know. Our true ancestors with the uppercase A. Get out of those religions, whatever. And for all of you out there who may be from other race, maybe you're white, maybe you're mixed blood, if you accept the message, if you like the message, if you like the truth, then just simply follow the teachings. Follow Zulula 100. We are not here to bring division, to bring hate, to try to oppress or... No. We're just reestablishing the facts, because there's so many lies that has been perpetrated from generations and generations. We have to know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. So if you like justice, you love the truth, the spiritual liberation is also for you. That was the message. All glory to Loba, the only and unique Creator.